will most likely happen, a stable political economy situation from 2011 to 2020, and that the ASEAN common market will happen. This has already happened, so it's really, we're saying only by 2015, the remaining trade facilitation issues that are slowing down the trade will be removed completely by 2015. Okay, here is a requirement that we feel is important. We have entered into free trade agreements with a certain number of economies, and we are saying that if we delay to 2020 the reductions of tariffs on units below 3 liters, which is the focus of the program we are proposing, we believe that, as well as below 3 tons for light commercial vehicles, we believe that this will support the objectives of increasing local production of these below 3 liter and below 3 ton trucks, light trucks and components and cars. So we feel this would be a very big contributor to making this roadmap produce the results it is designed for. And lastly, thorough enforcement of laws, regulations on importation, valuation, and registration and operation of vehicles. Again, I think as Dr. Aquino stated, we have enough rules. What we need is better enforcement. Okay, in terms of numbers, to give you a feel for the numbers, in 2006, total new registrations were 174,000, of which 99,541 were new vehicles registered in that period. Of the 99,000, 55,000 were units produced locally from CKD, and 43,900 from CBU, from completely built up units. By the year 2010, total new registrations were 221,000 and new sales were 168,000. Of the 168,000, 74,000 were from local production. That growth rate of total from 99,000 to 168 was an average of 13.9, the red mark number, 13.9 per annum. So we're saying if the economy grows at between 5 to 6% GDP per year, that resulted, this was studied also by some economists, resulted in an average growth rate of vehicle sales, total new vehicle sales of about 13.9%. It is based on this assumption that we make the future other projections that the roadmap we developed is based on. But aside from this, to prove that we have a large latent demand, we developed some other statistics which I'd like to share with you this afternoon. Okay, this one may surprise some of us. Let's start with cars. Total registered cars in the country are 808,000 units. However, our industry sold new units from 2001 to 2010 for over a 10-year period of only 367,000. There is therefore a variance of 440,000 or 441,000 rounded off that we did not sell, we did not produce nor sell. If we estimate that of that 441,000, 40% were imports of new products, which happened because taxes were lowered and so on. Therefore, the balance is 60% imports of used cars. And that number comes out to 265,000. If this 265,000 happened over a 10-year period, we're saying therefore that 33% is 265 over the 808,000. 33% of our car fleet are over 10 years old. What does that mean? Okay, I'm not saying any car that's 10 years old is bad. Okay, but what I'm saying here is those cars are not utilizing the new modern engines that are less pollutant, are more fuel efficient, are compliant with Euro standards of the country, and so on. So this shows that the fleet of the country on cars is only 67% average of 10 years old. In the utility vehicles, it's even worse. out of the 1.9 million registered utility and SUV vehicles. This includes all the jeepneys and small cars and small utility vehicles. Out of the 1.9 million, our industry sold only 692,000, or there is 1.2 million buyers. If we assume, and these are based on some rough studies, these are estimates, 10% of these were new imports. We experienced, based on statistics, very few are new imports from on these utility vehicles and SUVs. 90% are imported, used, and or rebuilt. By rebuilt, I mean these are the Jeeps that are used, that are produced using second-hand engines, components, axles, what have you, by small shops all around the country. We're talking about 1.1 million, or 58% of the fleet of the country registered as of 2010 is 58% older than 10 years. In the trucks, it's even worse. Okay, out of the 317,000 trucks registered in 2010, industry sold only 16,000, or there's a gap of 301,000. And if 10% of that were imported new, the rest, 271 or 86,000, 86% of the trucks running in the country are more than 10 years old. And that is why I think we can draw the conclusion that a lot of the accidents, pollution, and less efficient use of our transport sector can be traced to this. On buses, it's just as bad. 34,900 units registered. The industry sold 6,445. If we assume that 20% or 5,900, this is experienced only in the past maybe 5 years with so many new buses coming from China, to 23,000 buses come from used or rebuilt units, or 66% of the fleet is more than 10 years old. On an overall, out of the 3.1 million vehicles running in the country today, the industry sold only 1,082,000, and there's 2,041,000 units that are in variants. And if we assume, I added all of the new imports, and that totals 339 or 17%, 83% are imports of used and rebuilt, or the whole country's fleet is 55% older than 5 years. Here, gentlemen, ladies, is the potential, okay, latent potential. If we really, truly, as a country, want to change the profile, age profile of our fleet to become a more efficient economy, if we want the Clean Air Act to really be effective, we have to consciously change the profile of this fleet. Now, we're not saying that we should all stop buying any of these units. We should say, what we're trying to say is really test them properly, force the users of these old units to either junk them or repair them so that they meet safety and emission standards, and gradually develop an affirmative action plan by government to change the profile of this fleet by encouraging the upgrade of all these old units to the newer technology units that will save running costs, fuel efficiency, and meet safety and pollution standards of the country. So there, gentlemen, ladies, is the potential we're talking about. And this does not include the replacement of these older units, does not include fleet expansion, meaning more units used per person because of the economic improvement of the country. So the potential is there. Now, using those numbers, we forecasted, therefore, the increase from 2011 of 165,000 approximately to 280,000, assuming a growth rate of average of 13.9% per year. If we say that the local produced vehicles will be incentivized, encouraged over that period, we forecast the growth to go to from 72,000 to 170,000 by 2015. And we are not saying there will be no CPU units. We are forecasting also a growth of CPU imports, but at a much lower level, at 4% average, to about 110,000. This would bring total new sales to 280,000, plus the 50,000 others that are still coming in or built under the mango tree, as some of our colleagues call it, bringing total new registrations to about 330,000 by 2015. If you push this projection further, from 2015 to 2020, we can see again the growth of CPUs minimally, but the encouraged CKD, local produced vehicles, growing much faster to 335,000 for a total new sales of 450,000 units, and keeping these other drop-ins or reused, rebuilt units to 50,000, bringing total new registrations to 500,000. This, gentlemen, if this happens, this would really move towards what I said earlier about changing the profile of the fleet of the country towards a more efficient transport sector. Okay, present facilities. What does the industry have now to be able to meet that new demand, that new production requirement if the economy grows on that level? Right now we have 7 plants with ED painting systems. This is the bottleneck in assembly of big vehicles. This is the electronic deposition painting system, which allows paint to be attached to the metal by an electric charge. So that is critical, and we already have 7 plants for that, and that is good enough to meet the immediate forecast of the roadmap. Also, we have these are some critical plants. We have stamping plants that are free, transmission factories, but producing more for exports rather than for local. We have 4 that can be refitted. Large injection molding plants. We have 2. Suspension systems 3. Minor parts and components. This is the parts and components makers. Although there are more than 200 registered participants, we feel that there are about 50 that are actively supplying to the local industry now. And tool and die shops, again, a requirement to be able to expand and increase local value added. There are 2 of those. Again, more are needed. And the export zone producers. There are a number of parts and components makers in the export zone, in PESA and what have you, that are not integrated into the local economy, local production of units, because they see that our production volumes by particular models are small. We can, of course, use their facilities as this expanded road map will require parts and components from them. And that we will then be more attractive to them for their tooling up to supply the local manufacturing sector. Capability gaps. Okay, we're dreaming of producing those kinds of levels of units and parts, and there are certain gaps, as I mentioned earlier, that are not here. And the biggest gap here is this multi-stage deep draw body stamping lines. This is to make, right now most of the units assembled here bring in the metal parts from abroad. And these are very sensitive because they're already formed. And if there is damage, repair is expensive, packaging is expensive. So if we have to grow to those levels, we would need multi-stage deep draw stamping lines to be added to the local